Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 104. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Tuesday, Steelers Nation. We're recording this Tuesday because it was a very busy day for the Pittsburgh Steelers as the legal tampering period got underway, and so did Omar Khan and this organization. New names coming in. Trades, players lost, more trade rumors, just a ton of stuff happening in 24 hours. Dave, how you doing?
All right. They gave us a lot to talk about. There was quite a bit of tampering going on by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I guess we'll get it out of the way technically. I guess you won the bet. We wondered, we each took sides of whether or not this team would add an outside free agent in the first 12 hours of the tampering period. And yeah, they technically added two, agreed to terms, and then traded for another one. Got another re-signing to talk about. We got some Patrick Queen smoke up in the air, it seems like, and this team also got on the compensatory value board to the positive as well too, losing three of their own soon to be unrestricted free agents to other teams. So we got a lot to cover, and probably we need to knock this out as soon as possible before it starts. Some more tampering starts happening on Tuesday here. So get us going here.
No doubt, news cycle moving fast. So we're going to put these topics in the 1 to 2 buckets, the outside additions and the internal, either resignings or losses. Let's start, though, with the new names who are expected to become Pittsburgh Steelers. Things can become official starting tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. 3 adds on Monday. Wide receiver Michael Pittman in a trade from the Colts. Cornerback Jamel Dean, free agent from Tampa Bay. And running back Rico, Dowdle, free agent, signing from the Carolina Panthers and was with Mike McCarthy in Dallas. So those are the 3 names that'll come across official starting on Wednesday. Let's take them in order in which they came, Dave, starting with the Michael Pittman trade, which happened about a half hour or so after the tampering period opened up. The Colts retained Alec Pierce on a huge money contract, highest paid free agent receiver ever. And by virtue of that, Michael Pittman became expendable and now a Pittsburgh Steeler. Reportedly, the trade is a swap of 6th and 7th round selections, so a real cheap deal there. That is Pittsburgh. What is it, Dave? Pittsburgh sending the 7th and getting back a 6th in return, or am I getting that reversed?
Probably sending a 6.
Sending a 6 and getting a 7 back.
Yeah.
That would make more sense, yeah. So that's the trade terms. We don't have the exact picks on those. Those will be hopefully known on Wednesday. Pittsburgh also signing Pittman to an extension, 3 years, $59 million to get him under contract long term. So your initial thoughts on the move for Michael Pittman Jr.?
All right, name that we kind of wondered what was going to happen with Alec Pierce if the Colts ended up re-signing him. I know it kind of got 11th hour with him. There was some talk about Alec Pierce was going to hit free agency, and then at the last moment there, they got him signed to a mega deal there. And we wondered going into this if Alec Pierce was the one that they would retain, what would happen with Michael Pittman? Would they release him outright? Would that be a guy the Steelers looked at if they did release him outright? I don't know if we really discussed the trade aspect of it there, but obviously Michael Pittman became expendable once the Colts re-signed Alec Pierce to a big deal there. So Michael Pittman was due $24 million in 2026 prior to the trade. That's part of the reason why they had to do something with him. I think he had a $2 million roster bonus coming up in the first part of early part of the new league year in March as well too. So this was essentially one of those salary dump trades where they just get what they can get for him as part of the trade. And then as the news came out, you had to wonder if the Steelers would get an extension done right away with Michael Pittman Jr. That sounds like that's the case. They probably worked all that out ahead of time. They were probably tampering before the tampering period. If not, that came together super, super quick there on Monday. Now, we do not know the specifics beyond 3 years, $59 million, I believe. I think, who was it? The insider, Garofalo, I think, or either him or Pellicero. I think it was Garofalo that stands by. It's a new 3-year deal for him. But I think the most interesting thing when it comes to the contract goes the fact that Michael Pittman was due $24 million in 2026. What does the new deal look like? Is he going to get that $24 million? Is he going to get the $24 million still in totality in 2026, meaning as part of signing bonus and base salary? That would be quite, you're talking about nearly half of the contract being paid out of the 59, if indeed that's the case. I would imagine the Steelers would probably want to lower that first year money to more, because his average yearly value comes in at just under $20 million, assuming this is a new 3-year deal. That would make the first year money probably right around, I don't know, 21 million, which would be at least about a 3 million discount. But we don't know how it's laid out yet. I'm almost willing to guarantee, though, that the only guaranteed money in the Pittman deal will be the 2026 money. I would imagine his cap charge should come in under 10 million for 2026, whereas his cap number going into the trade was 24 million. So we'll wait. I think that's one of the few that we're waiting on some finality as far as the contractual side goes. Now, what are the Steelers getting in Michael Pittman Jr.? They're getting a guy that's 28, I think, fixing to turn 29 during the season here. Had a fairly okay productive season last year with Daniel Jones at quarterback for the Colts. Obviously, when Daniel Jones went down, they kind of they had Rivers, and who else do they have there?
Riley Leonard started the
Yeah,
season finale.
Riley Leonard and all. He did have, I think one significant thing, though, was the touchdown connection. I think Pittman has 25 touchdowns, I think, for his career, touchdown receptions. 7 of those, the league, the quarterback who has now thrown him the most touchdown passes in the NFL is Daniel Jones, who only played the one, not even a full season there. So if anything, and you look back at the list of quarterbacks that Michael Pittman has played with, there you got the list of Daniel Jones, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan was there for a little bit as well. I think it goes without saying that Daniel Jones did Pittman good and probably potentially helped give Pittman value there. He is a guy, though, that I think only 2 receptions or more than 20 yards down the field last season. So he's not a guy that I think that's going to deliver explosive plays over the top. Moving forward here, he is a very much a possession guy. I think if you look at his if you look at his receptions from last year, I think roughly 50% of them came in between the numbers. However, I think roughly 50% of his receptions came, maybe a little less, came within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I think he does good about finding soft areas of zones and playing that way. You see a lot of kind of curls, comebacks, I think, in his route tree. A lot of kind of mesh running away from guys, some over type routes. He lined up all over the place, I think, last season for the Colts in particular. His yards after the catch, probably about average, I would say, overall. But this is a guy that is not afraid to use the middle of the field. Once again, he had a nice touchdown rate last season. I believe roughly about half of those last season were 20-yard variety overall. But when you boil it down, I don't think he's going to be a very explosive producer of 20 yards or more for the Steelers. I think he's going to be more of that kind of possession, big body type receiver. I think he's a move the chain kind of guy. And as far as his blocking goes, I would call him about an average. You would think he'd be a little bit better blocker for his size, but he is a big guy overall. I think he can get some limited separation in some short area type stuff. I wouldn't call him a very refined route runner at this point of his career, but yeah, that's kind of where I am on him.
To sum up my thoughts on Michael Pittman Jr., he feels like the perfect receiver for an Arthur Smith offense because he's a kind of junkyard dog. He's going to go across the middle. He's going to do dirty work. He's going to dig out safety. He's going to block linebacker. He's going to line us the wing. Saw that against Pittsburgh, taking on TJ Watt on a couple kind of reach blocks on some short yardage situation stuff. He's going to be a selfless player. He had a lot of mouths to feed with the Colts. His production kind of waned and didn't seem to complain about it too much. And so he kind of fits almost the previous model of the offense. I wonder how he's going to fit into this newer model overall. But yeah, I think you summed it up well. I mean, he's a possession guy. I think he's a nuanced route runner. He's a crafty route runner. He can step on toes and be able to kind of sell routes, but is the burst or explosiveness really there? No, it's never truly been his game, and that's probably declined over time. His last 2 years have been quieter. Had a big game against Pittsburgh last year, which I'm sure left an impression on Omar Khan. Had a 100-yard performance, and that was his only 100-yard performance of the year in that loss to the Steelers midseason. So he's not scratching the itch that I'm looking for, which is a really high-level route runner and somebody that can create those explosives. As you said, he's just not been that type of guy, but he's going to work the middle of the field. He generally has good hands. The drop rate was up last year, but I think maybe that is some noise in the stats, and it probably returned to form in 2026. So it is a clear upgrade compared to what Pittsburgh has had previously the last 2 years as the number 2 receiver, but I think Pittsburgh still has a lot more work to do.
Yeah, in no way, shape, or form should this prevent the Steelers from, and we'll obviously see what happens here through the rest of free agency here, but in no way, shape, or form should the Steelers shy away from drafting a wide receiver, in, let's say, I don't know, the first 3 rounds or whatever of the draft. It would be nice to see now this team go about their business of getting kind of a more all around wide receiver, and one specifically that as you have kind of defined in the past, a kind of more nuanced route runner, right?
Yeah, that's still on my list, and somebody that can create those more explosives and get those 20-yard receptions, because that's not been Pittman's game the last 2 years. I mean, in a lot of ways, obviously the position is different. It's kind of a Pat Frymouth type of player where he's going to be able to beat zone and settle and sit and be able to work leverage and get himself open. Not going to be an explosive guy, going to have some value with his size, being a mismatch. Obviously, Pittsburgh now having 2 really big starting receivers in DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman. In some ways, Pittsburgh feels like they're building a basketball team in terms of their pass catchers. You have Metcalf, you have Pittman, you have Pat Frymouth, you have Big Darnell Washington. There's a size component that some teams will struggle to match up with. I think Pittsburgh's looking for big guys at cornerback, big guys in the pass game, and that's kind of why they're gravitating towards Michael Pittman Jr.
All right. Let's see what else on him. I think Josh Carney had some notes on him in here. According to PFF, Pittman averaged 1.44 yards per route run, his lowest stat in that area since 2022. Last season, averaged 3.4 yards after the catch, his lowest stat in that particular area last season since 2022. As you mentioned, drop rate a little higher. I mean, 4.8% drop rate obviously isn't bad, but it was as high as since 2022. 7 of 16 on contested catch situations. That was his worst contested catch rate since his rookie 2020 season. But Next Gen Stats had he recorded 40 receptions against split safety coverages in 2025, tied for the fourth most among wide receivers with Puka Nakua, and the Steelers face split safety rate at the seventh highest rate in last season, 45.9%. So you get a guy, once again, that is not afraid to work the middle of the field, a guy that can, look, he can catch the ball deep. I think he only had like 7 or 8 opportunities of 20-yard catches, air yards last season. I think even a couple of those were off target, kind of uncatchable, if you will. But he's not going to be a guy that you're going to consistently be taking the deep shots with. He is going to be a possession receiver. He's going to be a guy that's going to catch probably 50% of his catches between the numbers on the field, and probably at least 50% of his catches within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. I know Ben Solik had kind of an outburst on Mina Kimes' podcast, talking about he was mad that the Steelers extended Michael Pittman Jr., but it's hard to come out and use that as a blanket statement, not knowing the full breakdown of the contract first. And once again,
there is a report about $24 million in guarantees that just popped up. I don't know the specific breakdown of those guarantees, but that's coming from The Athletic, it appears right now. That's part of the extension. Can I ask you about the extension? Was that done because there's a sincere hope about him being a long-term guy, or was this done to lower that 2026 cap charge? And if it works out for long-term, great. If not, then it's kind of a year-by-year approach. Was this just kind of done for the math of it all, or is there a real earnest hope that this guy's going to be here for 3 years?
Well, I don't think you ever sign a guy long-term just hoping you can get 1 year out of 3 years. But if indeed this is the $24 million in 2026, and let's assume that that's the only guaranteed money, even let's say it's 24 million in year one, but only 22 million is guaranteed. You're still going to pay him the 24 million. That's not, they're not going to walk away from him between now and the start of the season. So, it's really a 1 year, $24 million contract with, option years in the final 2 years, obviously at decreased values moving forward into 27 and 28. So, yeah, look, you can't have him have a $24 million cap hit. One would think that the byproduct of this extension would have his cap hit drop significantly, probably just under 10 million or so.
Yeah.
So
My point being, it was hard. It'd be hard to trade for him and not touch his contract. Would that be fair to say?
Oh yeah, because $24 million cap hit would be quite a cap hit, especially if this team doesn't want to touch any contracts with restructures or anything along those lines.
Right. So I view this as they did an extension because they kind of had to do an extension, and more so than they really earnestly wanted to do an extension. Obviously they traded for Pittman. They like him, super cheap. People saying it was such a cheap trade. It is, but it's no surprise the Colts were going to cut this guy. They had no leverage. They just could get whatever they could get for him. So I expected the compensation to be really minor, and it of course was a 6-7 pick swap. But this extension happened because really there was no way to keep Pittman on his current deal.
Right. And look, we'll see if this report holds true, but 24 million is a lot to pay for him for one season. But I guess the backside of that is you can walk away from it quickly after this season as well too.
Now, could that 24 million include injury guarantees or some guarantees that may not be truly fully guaranteed?
What are they saying? Are they saying it's are they just using guaranteed or in a report?
The report was just 24 million in guarantees. That was from, and I'm just looking at this and I haven't been able to really vet it out a whole lot. This is from James Boyd. I think it's in The Athletic from DeFabo. Let's see if it's actually in the article somewhere. I'm actually not even seeing it in the article. I'm not sure
I don't know.
This is coming from.
I don't know if this is for sure. I'd much rather not trust this until. I mean, look, here's the thing. For Pitt, they would have to work out this deal prior to trading for him, right?
Sure, of course.
And then also Pittman can say, "Look, I'm due $24 million. I'm not signing anything unless I get my $24 million this year." But on the flip side, he probably faced getting cut. And was he going to get $24 million in 2026 had he been cut outright? So there's that part in the go. I mean, we're speculating about stuff that in hard. We've got a lot of the other contract stuff in on the other players. So I'd rather revisit this conversation after we know exactly what way this contract's laid out.
All right, fair enough. But the deal is agreed to. It'll become official. I'm sure either probably Wednesday, but within a couple of days once the deal can officially be processed by the NFL. So what is your excitement level? Pittsburgh been pining and needing a number two receiver for the longest time. Have not made the moves to adequately get one. Pittman now fills that role. How excited are you about Pittman being that guy?
Well, this feels a lot better than Van Jefferson, and I mean, go through the list here of the mud that they've tried to throw up on the wall overall. I think obviously, and we'll see if Aaron Rodgers ends up coming back. He would play more into kind of the shorter passing game. Do I think he's going to play out his all 3 years of his deal in Pittsburgh? Probably not. If we're being honest here, but my excitement level is at least it gives you a more legitimate wide receiver option opposite DK Metcalf at this point. But on the flip side, you wonder how they're going to you're still wondering how this team's going to register explosive plays in the passing game with guys like Metcalf and Pittman.
Yeah, I was a little underwhelmed by the news initially, to be honest with you, because I still think Pittsburgh's biggest needs at receiver, other than just a talent upgrade, and Pittman is a talent upgrade. The receiver room is better with him than without him, but still looking for that dynamic route runner type of guy. I think Pittsburgh's still searching for that. Could they still add that? Absolutely. Probably going to look towards the draft, and if they can round out the room, we got to look at this room in totality, really after April's draft, and kind of see how the whole thing fits together rather than judge it on the fly as it's still being pieced together and assembled. So I want to be fair and give some grace and patience to that. But Pittman was not one of the guys I was targeting where I thought there were some good free agent receivers to go after and target, but might be easier to trade for a guy than try to get that prospective free agent in the door when the quarterback situation is still unknown like it is in Pittsburgh. Let me just ask you one last thing. You mentioned that stat a moment ago about split safety coverage, and Pittsburgh saw a lot of that two-shell coverage. Aaron Rodgers talked about that a lot last year. Pittman had a lot of catches against it. Does that stat mean anything, though? It feels like one of those just meaningless gobbledygook stats that you can twist and spin in to say anything. It's not like Pittman was like splitting coverage and catching seam balls, so I'm not really sure if that stat ends up impacting things too much.
Well, I think more than anything, maybe it just speaks to the ability to work the middle of the field.
Yeah, I don't know what all it means. If he's catching 5-yard curls against split safety coverage, then what is the real value in that? But he's a possession receiver. He can work the middle. Pittsburgh needs to now throw it over the middle, and hopefully that'll change under Mike McCarthy and to be a departure from the Mike Tomlin era that seemed to be very discouraged by that idea. But that is Pittman's game.
All right. I think more than anything, if you want to look at the list of the way next gen stats frame it, look at the other guys that are on the list and tell me what you think about those wide receivers. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase, Pittman, and Nakua. I mean, that's some good company to be on a list with.
It is, but are they winning in the same way? Is Pittman winning vertical like the way that I assume those guys are winning vertical?
Well, once again, if you look on the tape on it, there's not a lot of like direct seam type routes. A lot of where Pittman is catching these are kind of settles and curls and those kind of routes. So I looked at I don't know. I think I pulled up 50 targets this morning, and I probably watched about 35 of them of targets that ended in catches.
All right, so yeah, he's definitely the possession guy. I mean, in the Colts last year, Pierce was the vertical playmaker, downfield guy, and Pittman was kind of doing some of the more dirty work underneath. And so that'll probably be his role still in Pittsburgh. He's been a tough, durable guy. He's played in 16-plus games every year since the NFL moved to a 17-game season. My first thought and like memory of Pittman was when Casey hit him in that game a couple years ago, got suspended for the season for it. Pittman didn't miss a lot of time, if any, after that hit. Maybe he missed a game, but he's been a durable guy. Is getting a little bit older. I mean, the age isn't terrible, but there's been some declining production. Had a peak year in 23, 21, really good year. The last 2 years has been less involved in the offense, sort of being phased out. The production has been more minor, a lot of target share, but not a ton of splash plays, and the yards are down, the receptions are down. But obviously, in Pittsburgh, could get a lot of targets as a number 2.
All right, look, he had what, 80 receptions last year? 40 of those came with air yards of 5 yards or less.
Yeah, again, this just sounds like an Arthur Smith type of receiver. The way the offense was being built last year, I think this would have made more sense and fit more. But obviously, it can still work, and we'll have to see how the rest of the receiver in Mike McCarthy's vision, how that all shakes out.
How many explosive play receptions does he have for his career? 20 yards or more gains.
Well, yeah, for his career, probably a decent number because he had some really good years earlier, his first 4 seasons in the NFL, but those numbers have dovetailed. I think I had, 17 receptions at 20-plus yards the last 2 seasons, which was 60th in the NFL, and Pittsburgh's around their bottom half in the league in that category. Over that span, they were bottom third last year. So like I said earlier, he's just not really going to scratch that itch, at least the way that he's been playing the last 2 years.
All right, main takeaway here from Pittman before we move on. This team should not shy away from drafting a wide receiver early in the draft, right?
Sure, agreed. And to be fair, that would have been true really no matter who they brought in. Even if they had signed the guy that I wanted, Romeo Doubs, they're still going to need more help. They're going to need more depth. This was not going to be a complete room just based off of one addition. But Pittman is a durable, experienced veteran receiver that can work the middle of the field, can beat zone coverage, and kind of give that flavor to the offense.
I certainly wouldn't grade this as an A+ acquisition. I'd probably be along the lines of a C+, B-.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought too. So I think we're probably in agreement on that.
All right.
All right, that is.
Josh Carney has a great film room up on him on the site for anybody that wants to check that out.
Yep, go check it out, and go check out the film room on the other edition, or one of the 3 editions, Jamel Dean, the cornerback out of Tampa Bay. This was a big money contract, 3 years, $36 million and change to come to Pittsburgh. Dean had spent the last 7 years in Tampa Bay and is now poised to become the starter opposite Joey Porter Jr. in Pittsburgh, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's easier to get a little bit more excited about this one than Pittman if we're stacking them, as far as acquisitions go here. Very long corner, very physical corner. I think the first thing that jumps out when you look at his tape is the physicality aspect of his game. He's not afraid to come up and try to fight off blocks in kind of manufactured passing game, run game extensions. He'll do the dirty work in there. He's not afraid to get in there, lower his shoulder. Probably not the best form tackler when it comes to cornerbacks in the NFL, but he is effective no matter what. So you get a physical guy overall. I think he mainly played on the right side in Tampa Bay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Throughout his career,
yeah,
I think
90% of his snaps right side guy.
I think when he came out of college too, he was pretty much a man guy, I think, coming out. And I think he kind of had to adjust over the years to zone when he was in Tampa Bay there. I think if you ask him one for one which one he preferred to play, he'd probably tell you, I like playing man more than anything. He likes to get his hands on guys, particularly if he's up against them, kind of press situations there at the line of scrimmage there. Change of direction isn't great overall. I don't think he has a great feel for zone. However, I think he can function in cover 2 kind of feel and drop to get depth. I think he had one interception, San Francisco, maybe.
Yes.
That he did that as well too. But I think you get a guy that I think he's a smart guy, particularly in man. I think he likes to get his hands on people. I think he's physical overall. I would expect him to continue to play mainly on the right side overall. I expect him to have his share of kind of run tackles overall. Just he goes about he's a very kind of blue collar, go about his business type of cornerback. And once again, he's a long type guy overall. So I like this fit defensively. Now he is coming up on 30 years of age, but I think contractually the contract's not bad. I think the average yearly value on this is 12.25. It looks like they gave him only 12 million guaranteed as part of the signing bonus there. I think his first year take is $13.5 million in 2026. He's got a low cap number of $5.5 million for 2026. If you want to frame this one way, you could call this a 1-year deal worth $13.5 million with option years, not technically, but theoretically in 2027 and 2028. They will have to make a decision on him by March 15th, a year from now, because he's due a $4 million roster bonus. So if you wanted to walk away from him after one season, you could do so with an $8 million dead money hit, and then you would save $8 million, I guess, in cap space here. So this along the lines with Michael Pittman as well too. This should not prevent the Steelers from going out and drafting a corner within the first 3 rounds. Obviously, you hope that this is a guy that can play in your defense for the full length of his 3-year contract. But it's not a lot of cash, $13.5 million to sink in to help kind of fortify this defense. And I think he's had some pretty decent seasons in Tampa Bay leading up to this. Overall, I think did he even give up a touchdown or 1 touchdown, I think, in coverage last season? But once again, I think they got their money's worth when it comes to Jamel Dean, at least when it comes to the 2026 season. And yeah, that's where I'm at on Adam. And plus, you don't lose compensatory value because of him reworking his contract with Tampa Bay. So you don't lose any compensatory value with going out and getting a guy like Dean. But once again, I think he turns 30, and we know the Steelers haven't had a lot of luck with these older cornerbacks as of late. But if I think he's a good complement to Porter.
Yeah, he's a scrappy dude. He's big. He's physical. He wants to get hands on. You watch him against and challenge some of these big receivers out there in the NFC South. Tedderoa, McMillan. See him against Drake London. There were some really good matchups. I'm sure Pittsburgh was thinking about how he's going to face it off against T. Higgins twice a year, a big physical power 4 type of receiver. You see some of those similarities on tape. He had a really good 2025 season. You're right. Charged, I think, by PFF with a 1 touchdown. I'm always a little dubious on how they grade coverage and how they assign things, but that was against McMillan, was beat deep on a cover 0 play where McMillan burned him over the top, but overall just that 1 touchdown allowed. Porter allowed 0 last year. So you have starting cornerbacks that allowed 1 touchdown last year, which is really uncommon. But he's an aggressive guy, and he's definitely got to be a guy that has to get hands on and be able to disrupt and jam off the line of scrimmage. He's less comfortable in off man whenever he can't play top down in the sense of being physical and kind of on top of the guy from the release. Then he gets into some more trouble, can get a little grabby. He had 4 penalties last year, but played really good football for them. And he had a bad year in 24. He took a pay cut just to stay on Tampa Bay's roster and turned that kind of arc around and got paid because of it. So good on him for it. He's a right side guy, played 90% of his snaps on that side. So we'll see if that changes in Pittsburgh, but you could probably assume right now more so playing sides, Dean on the right side and Porter on the left side, but we'll see how the flexibility aspect sort of changes. So Patrick Graham, the DC, he can play any coverage, but he likes playing man coverage and to blitz on 3rd down, need corners who can support that kind of play island coverage, and Dean, I think, is comfortable doing that.
All right, looking at his penalty count for the regular season, 2023 had 4 of them. 1 of them was declined, had illegal contact, illegal use of hands, and 2 defensive holding penalties in 2023. In 2024, with Dean, looks like he had 3 penalties during the regular season. 2 were declined. Those 2 were defensive holding, had 1 defensive pass interference. And then last season with the Buccaneers, Jamel Dean had 4 total penalties, and one of those was declined. He had a defensive holding, had a face mask, had a defensive. He had the whole gamut: face mask, defensive pass interference, and illegal contact there. So over since dating back to at least 2020. What did I say? Three. Never had more than 5, I guess, penalties called on him in a regular season.
Now, keep in mind, he's not also played a full season ever. He played 14 games last year, 12 in 2024, and 13 in 2023. He's missed 12 games over the last 3 seasons. So he's always kind of had some nagging injuries, never played a full year. Get Asante Samuel behind, probably have to make some starts for him throughout 2026, just based on the history of it all, as Dean is getting older too, turns 30 mid-season. So some of these numbers are based off of not fully complete campaigns, and that's kind of one concern with Dean. I think he's a good player. I've liked Dean for a long time. Coming out of Auburn, had a really good combine workout. He's been a good corner for a long time. My pause was just for a guy about to turn 30, and he's not Darius Slay. He's not Patrick Peterson, so old, so over the hill. Is he going to retire after this year kind of thing? But Pittsburgh's just been down this road before with these really veteran cornerbacks about to turn 30. It's a defense that has to get younger in the secondary and the defense overall. And I was hoping for somebody a little bit younger than about to turn 30.
Yeah, once again, this should not keep the team away from drafting a corner early here.
But do you think first round is off the table? I think first round corner's off the table with this move.
Potentially, yeah.
So would you say potentially as in there's still a chance, or do you think would you take it off the table?
Look, you never know how things are going to fall, right? So, but it would have to be a corner that they really, really liked, and how many of those are normally there at 21? So unless they go up and get somebody, I would say the odds of them drafting a corner in round 1 are slim.
Okay. Yeah, I think they took a big hit yesterday with bringing back Samuel and, of course, signing Jamel Dean. So, again, I know this guy's not ancient. He can still play, had a good year, but whenever you're turning 30 with injury concerns, you wonder if those things are going to progress and worsen over time. And so there's a bit of fear with that. The good news, as you said, the contract is team-friendly. Pittsburgh can really take this year by year, really make a decision on Dean in 27 based on his 26 play. If it's a terrible experience, they can get out of the contract fairly painlessly. And so that is certainly one positive. The team structured this deal well.
Yeah, what if I told you that this was a 1-year, $13.5 million deal?
Yeah, but that is a positive, of course. But the downside is Pittsburgh has just gone through this Rolodex of veteran cornerback after veteran cornerback, and you got to find a longer-term option at some point. Now, Porter's been that guy on one respect and should get an extension this year, but you just can't keep swinging and missing on veteran cornerbacks. So even if you have the quote-unquote upside of Dean being cut and you can work out of that contract after year 1, it's still a bad signing. Like if you're cutting him after year 1, it's something went wrong.
Right. And plus too, you're spending, $13.5 million and he's taking playing time potentially away from a younger guy.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, again, there's some good things with him. The run defense is solid. He's physical. He's big. He's a willing tackler. So there's some good marks there. He can blitz a little bit. Had a sack fumble on Brock Purdy last year. Had a pick 6 last year. Once pick 6 Aaron Rodgers back in 2020. So if Rodgers returns and they become teammates, it's kind of a fun full circle story there. He can certainly still play some good football. You have, again, that unique receiver, 2 big cornerbacks, Porter, well over 6 foot, 6'2", 6'3", whatever he is, really long. Dean isn't super long, but he's big and physical and a more built guy than Porter at well over 6 foot as well. So Pittsburgh with 2 starting 6-foot corners. If Ramsey ends up playing some nickel this year, which we'll see, you got Ramsey, Porter, and Dean. Those are 3 big physical guys. Now, Porter's a little different in his physicality, kind of more of a tight man coverage, kind of smooth ride the receiver rather than kind of really jam and be, with a really good punch. But that's pretty unique right there. If Pittsburgh can have those 3 corners on the field in some packages this year.
All right, I'd probably grade this one along the same line, B-, C+. I do like this one a little bit better than Pittman.
I'd give it a higher grade. I like this more than Pittman too, so I'll grade it accordingly, probably in that B+ range.
Okay.
All right, and let's get to the third reported addition. That is Rico Dowdle after Pittsburgh lost running back Kenneth Gainwell to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which we'll talk about more in depth in just a few minutes. They pivoted to running back and got Rico Dowdle, who reunites with Mike McCarthy. They spent time in Dallas together. Dowdle was in Carolina last season, rushed for 1,000 yards. Different type of back than Kenneth Gainwell, but I think a quality signing here, and the money's pretty cheap as well.
Yeah, 2 years, 12.25, I think is what it came out. We don't know the full breakdown as far as signing bonus and first year base salary, but I imagine the cap hit on him is going to come in either slightly under or slightly over 4 million on that. And I would imagine, once again, the only guaranteed money with him is the 2026 signing bonus plus probably the base salary as well too. Reunites with Mike McCarthy, right? Mike McCarthy knows him well. Back to back, people talk about the 1,000-yard rushing seasons back to back, but he's back to back 1,300 total yards from scrimmage as well too. So he's not, obviously not as good of probably a receiving back as what Gainwell brought to this team specifically last year with the Steelers, but he is to me a better runner and a better runner between the tackles as well. I think he's not a guy that's going to deliver you a lot of explosive runs at 20 yards or longer. I think he has 9 of those for his career so far, but he is a guy that I think can produce 10-yard runs, which a lot of times now people consider 10-yard runs explosive runs in the NFL overall. He is really adept at running between the tackles and some of that duo, mid-zone, zone, any type zone, gap, man type gap schemes. He can get it done in between the tackles. A little bit bigger guy, physical, fairly decent yards after contact type of guy. He can one cut and cut back against openings there. You go back to that week, I don't know when they played Dolphins, week 5, had a huge game against the Dolphins last season there, 200 something yards, had I think 3 or 4 of his longest runs of the season in that game as well too. A guy that I don't think he has a lot of games where he's carried the football more than 20 times in a game there, but definitely a good complement, especially if you want to talk about interior runner types to go along with Jaylen Warren there. And once again, not probably the receiving back that Gainwell is, but he's not a slouch either. I do kind of wonder about pass protection. I have not gone down the rabbit hole as far as the pass protection aspect of his game. I just watched a lot of his runs, and once again, I think he is a guy that can get it done between the tackles for you. So I think it's a nice pairing with Jaylen Warren overall, and obviously Mike McCarthy knows him quite well due to the time in Dallas together.
Yeah, Pittsburgh sticking with some size, certainly a bigger back, more between the tackles back than Gainwell, like you said. But he's not just a pure power back. There's certainly that edge to him, but he can, make some plays out there in space and has good vision. I'm still kind of digging into the tape on him. Our Ross McCorkle's working on a film room on him. The signing came, later last night, so it's a little bit less time for us to kind of gather some information. But he got on a heater last year. You mentioned that Dolphins game, ran for 200 yards, then a $183 the following week against Dallas, his former team. And he started to take over for Chuba Hubbard. Those guys kind of flipped and flopped their roles and who was 1A and who was 1B throughout the season. Hubbard kind of ended in that the season in that lead role, but Dowdle had some really big performances. And yeah, it's a good signing. The pass pro, I've seen some good clips. The grading on him, if you care about PFF stats, are pretty negative overall. I think he had a pretty tough start to the season, and then things kind of evened out, it feels like, as the year went on for Dowdle. So I want to dig into that some more, but kind of a do-it-all running back, still fairly young, going to turn 28 here, but not a ton of mileage on him. Trying to find his footing in the NFL the first couple seasons. It's kind of been a committee back the last 2 years in Dallas and Carolina. So it's good money. It slots in right between what Gainwell got and what Warren is being paid. So the money makes sense. And a guy that I'm sure Mike McCarthy knows and trusts, and there's some value in that. He's caught 39 passes each of the last 2 years. So there are some receiving chops there. It just seems like a solid back that can do a bit of everything.
He's averaged almost 5 yards per touch since being in the NFL. And once again, back-to-back 1,300. If I told you right now that Rico Dowdle would register 1,000 yards rushing and 1,300 total yards from scrimmage in 2026, you'd sign up for that right now, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. He averaged 4.6 yards per carry each of the last 2 years. The run success rate was down. Last year was really good in Dallas in 24 at almost 54%. It was under 48% last year. So, that's always a product of offensive line play, too. It's not just a running back stat. But if he can rush for 1,000 yards, have a 50% run success rate, catch 20, 25 passes, then that's probably a good year for Dowdle and a good year for the Steelers.
I mean, you look at his total touches last 2 seasons, 274 and 275. So if need be, I mean, he could be a guy that and I expect along with Warren for him to have that kind of touch number? Probably not. I'm thinking probably what are you thinking, about 200 touches for him? Sound right?
I hadn't spent a lot of time putting a number on it. We'll talk about Caleb Johnson here in a second, but sure, 200's fine to start with.
All right. I mean, the fact that the last 2 seasons, though, he's been up around the 275, at least lets you know that if you got in a situation where you needed him to be on the field more, he could obviously do it. Let's see, snap counts the last 2 seasons, 636 on offense with Dallas in 2024 during the regular season, and 591 last season with Carolina. Only 32 snaps on special teams. I think he's got very limited kickoff returning capabilities as well too.
He did a little bit of return work last year, so he may be an option to help replace Gainwell, who was one of your starting kick returners last season. So yeah, that is a good point by you. He has 5 fumbles over the last 2 years, and so the ball security, want to keep an eye on that. That's not a great number. He has been, though, pretty durable these last 2 years. Missed just 1 game the past 2 seasons in that committee slash lead role, and I think Gainwell had that durability that was super underrated. Najee Harris had that too. Pittsburgh's enjoyed having a pretty healthy running back room the last several seasons. So Dowdle had some injury issues early in his career, had a hip injury in 2021, got put on IR, missed the entire season, but he's been durable in that, when he's had a role the last 2 years.
Right. And once again, expecting the guaranteed money to only be the 2026 portion. And we haven't seen the full breakdown, but I expect this cap number to come in probably just either side of 4 million.
If you were grading this one with the arbitrary off the rip grade, what would you give it?
I like this one probably more than the other 2. I'd probably give this a B plus, solid B plus.
Okay, I'll probably go with a B on that. So we are similar. So those are the 3 additions. Again, not officially official, not announced by the team, but that should start beginning tomorrow afternoon into the evening.
Here's the thing. Of those 3, they filled necessary needs prior to the draft with all 3 positions, especially the fact that they lost Gainwell, and you don't know, the jury's still out on a guy like Caleb Johnson overall there. So props on them for addressing these 3 positions the way that they did in the first day of the tampering.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Receiver was high on their list to immediately go out and get. That's pretty much was my expectation. Corner, I thought there were a lot of good corners out there. It was a need, and so I think it was good in principle to attack corner, and then to get that running back replacement. You could have gone through the draft, and Pittsburgh still could add a late day 3 pick, but the draft class isn't super strong. You probably want a veteran in there. The question, though, with Dowdle signing about Caleb Johnson, where does this leave him? It seems like he's still going to be the number 3 running back to open up 2026.
It certainly does. It's going to take a lot to probably get him on the field and get him some snaps.
I mean, if he plays well in camp, he can certainly still earn a role, an opportunity. Dowdle's contract is not so immense that he couldn't be part of a rotation and couldn't lose snaps and cede snaps to Johnson if he plays well. So Johnson just has to play well himself and earn it. But a new coaching staff comes in. They're not attached to him. McCarthy knows Dowdle, trusts Dowdle. These things happen. So this will be a chance for Johnson to make an impact. And if he's a good running back, that's going to shine through eventually over the long run. He's going to have to just prove it, though. When you have a bad rookie year and a new coaching staff comes in, this stuff happens.
Yep, exactly.
All right, Dave, that recaps the outside names. Let's talk about the internal names. Some staying, some going. Let's talk about the ones who are poised to stay. We mentioned Holcomb, Asante Samuel Jr. I don't know if we had contract numbers on them. I think we did. Samuel, 1 year, $4 million. Holcomb, 2 years, $5 million. Obviously, these are cheap deals, inoffensive numbers. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, bring back 2 guys for the price that you brought them back for, and then yeah, Samuel gives you a guy that can come off the bench, obviously, and obviously that happened before the announcement of the team signing Jamel Dean. But at least you get an experienced guy that could be the next guy off the bench there. Holcomb, downhill player, you got him on the cheap there, not a big cap number on him. So nothing wrong with those two re-signings, and really nothing wrong with the other re-signing that they made yesterday either.
And that was defensive lineman Esezi Otomewo, a restricted free agent, does not appear to have been tendered, instead signing a one-year contract per Tom Pelissero and Otomewo's agency. We don't know the number on that salary, but we can assume it's probably for the minimum or thereabouts. Otomewo signed a one-year deal last offseason, his first year in Pittsburgh, rotational defensive lineman, good athlete, some pass rush juice, had a sack, played in some of those one defensive lineman packages throughout the season. Good effort player, some depth. It's all it is. But I'm happy Otomewo's coming back.
Yeah, look, gives you some depth. A guy that was with you last year. I'll be very disappointed if this was more than the minimum for him, which I believe. Let's see, he was set to be a restricted guy, 1.145 million. Better be. I don't. We'll see whether or not they gave him a signing bonus, but I mean, you're not tendering him as a restricted free agent. They probably said, "Look, we need an answer from you to know what if we need to go another way or not here to secure a little bit of depth there." So I would imagine this is for the minimum for him. He'll fight for a roster spot, assuming that there's no guaranteed money attached to this. So he didn't play a lot overall. I think almost 200 snaps when you include the playoff game. Overall, I thought overall his snap quality was okay, but he is a backup guy.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's defensive end, and so he's going to work in behind Derek Harmon and Cam Hayward, assuming Hayward returns. Still not been an official answer from Hayward in terms of will he play or not, but all indications have been in Pittsburgh's own free agent. They've not attacked defensive linemen with a big signing as of yet, so maybe that's indication they know that Hayward is returning. YA Black, assuming he stays primarily at defensive end, and maybe Otomewo as that number 4. So a guy that most fans don't know, had kind of rotational snaps, made the roster last year, was inactive to begin the year. Logan Lee got the hat over him after the bye. Otomewo got the hat. I'm happy he's back.
All right, me too.
All right, those are the players who are returning. The players that Pittsburgh has lost, there are a couple of them to note as well. Running back Kenneth Gainwell had mentioned that 2 years, $14 million with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had a career year in 2025, was Pittsburgh's team MVP, really strong, do-it-all, durable, available player. We assumed he would have a market, and he did. And now Gainwell is going down south to Tampa.
Yeah, what ended up being his deal overall?
2 years,
14 million. I think it's being reported as 10 million guaranteed. We'll see if that's fully guaranteed or not. A lot of people are saying, well, what if why couldn't this team just spend a little bit more and retain Gainwell versus going after Dowdle? Well, I think they are two different backs in totality, and then B, if this 10 million leaked over in if guaranteed leaked over into 2027, that's probably another reason why the Steelers probably stayed away from it. So I imagine they tried to get Gainwell back. I think they probably just got outbid by the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, it could have just been scheme fit. McCarthy's system may not have been as friendly to Gainwell. He knows Dowdle, and so it may have just been when they just opted to go with Dowdle, who's also just a little bit cheaper as well. Doesn't hurt. So I couldn't tell you the exact reasons. I couldn't tell you, exactly where they stood on Gainwell. I know Khan said they wanted him back, but he says that about virtually everybody.
Right.
And just sometimes these things don't work out. So I'm bummed to lose Gainwell. That's the one free agent I did want to retain. Is it going to kill the franchise if he truly wasn't going to be as useful of a scheme fit under McCarthy as he was under Arthur Smith? I get it. So it kind of sucks, but I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep. I just recognize that Gainwell wore a lot of hats as a runner, receiver, a bit of pass protection, kick returner, kick coverage guy, only running back to play 500 offensive snaps and 100 special team snaps last year. So it's a lot of snaps, a lot of roles and hats to fill from one guy.
All right, first time the Steelers have lost a team MVP the following offseason since what? Neil O'Donnell, is that right?
I hadn't checked the stats, so I couldn't confirm that.
And I think that's the bit that's floating around on him.
Okay.
So we knew he'd have a market. We knew there was a good chance that they could potentially lose him, and they did.
Yep. They also lost James Pierre, who's going to take a 2-year deal worth over $8 million to go to Minnesota. And so the report was he had a pretty robust market. The money's not huge, a little less than what I thought it would be, but still a good payday for a former undrafted free agent, kind of a career special teamer. And so good for Pierre. He reunites with Brian Flores, who coached him a couple of years ago, at least was on Pittsburgh's staff. And then I think importantly, Jared Alexander, the pass game coordinator in Minnesota, I think really helped unlock Pierre to have that career season in 2025.
Look, this is a guy that's this is the bite of the apple that probably the only one that he's going to get of significance during his NFL career. So he had to take as big a bite as he could. The Steelers obviously didn't have him valued to the level that that Minnesota did. So good on him for I mean, he gave the Steelers some quality snaps last year. We kind of wondered if his what his market, how much he actually helped himself. Obviously, the coaching staff knows him well over there with in Minnesota, and that played a part in it. So good on him for getting paid.
Yeah, happy for James Pierre. Hopefully he has success out to Minnesota. What is the exact contract? 2 years, $8.5 million, I think. Do we know guaranteed on Pierre's deal?
I can look. I don't know if I looked at that yet.
It doesn't mean a ton. It's going to be, I'm sure, some modest guaranteed money. Still probably effectively a 1-year contract. We'll see how things go. I'm not sure exactly what Pierre's role will be. Maybe first man off the bench would be rotational type situation. Not positive what's happening on Minnesota's depth chart, but still good for Pierre.
I don't have a breakdown of that yet of what his deal was. Just the APY is $425 million.
And Dave, another loss. Isaac Seumalo headed to the Arizona Cardinals, 3-year deal worth over $10 million per season. So I thought he would hit the double digits just based off the guard market, one of the top interior offensive linemen available. And so Seumalo going to old Pittsburgh West, the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, it looks like don't have a breakdown of this other than knowing that the total value is 31.5 and 10.5 APY. Don't know anything about the guaranteed on that. It's hard to imagine. Maybe, I mean, I don't know what the guaranteed is, so it's hard to speak on that. But another guy that we thought that his value might be a little bit too rich for what the Steelers wanted to pay at his age, and with kind of the recent, what do you have, triceps or what
He's had triceps, a pec injury primarily the last 2 years.
Okay. All right. So, we talked, had the analogy the other day about the Krispy Kreme donuts. So it kind of just felt destined that Isaac Seumalo was going to end up elsewhere. And he did.
Yeah, zero surprise he left. I had no expectation he was going to come back. You weren't going to pay this guy $10 million 3 years after paying him $8 million when he's older and had some soft tissue injury. He's played well. He's a good anchor. He's strong. There's kind of a quiet leadership aspect to him. There was value and continuity to bring him back, but just the math was not going to work. And so Pittsburgh will have to explore other options. And what that'll be, Jerry Dulac reported that Pittsburgh's next free agent move will be to add a veteran guard. Of what caliber, of what level, he didn't specify. There are still some guard names out there. I wonder what direction Pittsburgh will go. Will they go pay a similar contract to Seumalo, kind of get a Seumalo 2.0, a Wyatt Teller type of a dude? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're going to go with a cheaper option to kind of compete. I would prefer just to draft one on day 2. I think it's where it makes a lot of sense to do that than kind of overpay on the market, as you usually have to do for offensive linemen. So we'll see the direction, but right now there is a hole at left guard.
I know a lot of people are talking about Elton Jenkins, who was cut loose by the Green Bay Packers, I believe, yesterday there. He is set to be 31 or 32, I think, this season. He's coming off of was it a fibula or something, I think, last season? And last season, too, he had lost his left guard spot and had to play the games that he played in. He was a starting center for them up until he got injured there. So his best years, here's the thing, at least Jenkins is a versatile guy. I would imagine at this point, really, really cheap coming off of injury, and at his age, I would guess that his market value's got to be below $4 million at this point. But obviously, Mike McCarthy knows about him during his time at Green Bay. Could they sign him to 1 or 2 year very cheap deal with very limited guaranteed money as kind of a placeholder at left guard. I suppose that's a possibility. I've already talked about the Cowboys not tendering Brock Huffman over there, and I know Huffman doesn't have a lot of starts overall. I'd be more apt to go young. If you gave me the set, Elton Jenkins and Brock Hoffman maybe on similar deals, which one would I take? I'd tend to go uh with the younger guy. I think in Hoffman there. But there's not a lot of great options out there, I think, overall, as far as plug and play guys that you would feel a lot confident about playing 17 games, I think. So I think you ran down, I think you listed a couple of names last night of what's left out there as far as guard goes.
Oh, just doing some doc connecting. If you want to kind of point back to the coaching staff, which we like to do. You saw the Dowdle signing. Obviously, there's a relationship already established between McCarthy and Dowdle. You got Brady Christensen of the Panthers and Dylan Radins of the Saints. Christensen worked with James Campen when Campen was in Carolina, and Radins worked with Jari Evans, the assistant offensive line coach in New Orleans. So I could see those as kind of two more economical options. They should not break the bank. They are younger, though, than Jenkins and Teller and Batonio and some of the names being thrown out there. Now, are they super quality guys? Radins was a former first round, bust or maybe second round bust at Tennessee. Christensen had an injury last year, didn't play the last half of the season. So there are going to be some demerits on any of these names out there. I mean, there are some guard options. You look at Mekhi Becton, you got Falalele from Baltimore, though he's more right guard than left guard. Dylan Parham from the Raiders. Could you bring back James Daniels, former Steelers offensive lineman? There are a couple names out there to look at. Robert Jones was hurt last year, but maybe could try to be a bounce back candidate. So we'll see. I mean, I'm okay with signing kind of a lower mid tier vet, but I think the draft is still the way to go. I think building through the offensive line through the draft is always the way to go. It's the way Pittsburgh has built this offensive line in present form. So I would just kind of continue down that path.
I agree, but it wouldn't be surprising, especially as Dulac says, them at least addressing the position with somebody. I wouldn't expect that player to be more than a $5 million APY, though.
I wonder if it will be. I think there's a chance it could be. Who and when is that going to happen? I couldn't quite tell you, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was a starter level contract that says this is the left guard as opposed to a more mid tier guy that could compete with Spencer Anderson, keep that draft door early open for Pittsburgh. Plus, if you're paying offensive linemen, it's just hard to get a cheap contract. If you're getting a real cheap contract, it's usually somebody with a lot of issues. So $5 million in a sense almost kind of gets you in the door to start talking to some of these guys. So we'll see.
All right. So it won't be a surprise if they add one in some way, shape.
They're definitely going to add one. The question is just what is the level of the contract? Is it going to be a $8 to $10 million type of contract where it says this guy is your starter? Is it going to be more of that $4 to $5 million, come in and compete and keep that draft door open? I just wonder which way this thing's going to go.
All right, I'll just go on record and say I'll be surprised if it's more than $5 million APY. So,
all right, fair enough.
We'll see if anything by the time we get to Wednesday's show, if there's anything to report there. But definitely a position that I hope that whoever they sign, they leave themselves in position to still address position in the draft.
I'm with you, Dave. All right, Dave, what should be some other next moves? Where else should Pittsburgh be looking to add in free agency?
I don't know. We got a mini update on Broderick Jones, sorta, I guess, yesterday. And what was that? Cover that real quick.
I mean, it really wasn't much of anything new. There was just, I think, a comment. I think it was from Dulac about this team has some maybe hope and optimism that he can get back within 6 months, which is a typical time frame. You saw Asante Samuel Jr.'s injury from surgery to clearance was about 6 months, and so that would put Jones, I don't know, healthy, cleared in May-ish or so, give or take. So, I mean, that's kind of all it was. It was similar information, just a little more optimistic tone.
All right, is this team going to re-sign Andres Pete on the cheap? He's obviously still out there. You've got the question mark about Broderick Jones, and then you've got former undrafted free agent in Dylan Cook, but you don't have much more than that. So it'll be interesting to see if they do anything with maybe any sort of a tackle moving forward here. What else could they do? I mean, a lot of it's probably going to depend on what happens with Patrick Queen over the course between now and March 15th, when his $2.5 million roster bonus is due, and whether or not this team maybe addresses yet another, cheapish inside linebacker or not. Obviously, they just re-signed Cole Holcomb. Malik Harrison is still under contract as of the time that we're recording this, but there's been at least a little bit of smoke from some reputable Dallas Cowboy beat writers yesterday that Dallas might be interested in trading for Patrick Queen. So I don't know if that smoke's going to become a fire or not, but I don't think you can at least ignore it right now there. And as far as other positions, I mean, look, they go out and get maybe a guy to go stretch the field at wide receiver. We'll see what happens with Calvin Austin. There's been no rumblings on him so far through the first. I guess we're coming up on 24 hours of tampering period here. What else could this team potentially use? How about a cheapish number 3 tight end? You're still up in the air about what's going to happen with Connor Hayward here. Could this team get a cheapish tight end in the fold? Maybe one that can play on special teams, one that probably better blocker than a receiver. What else could this team?
Here's my list that I have right now, and those things are all true. Guard, backup nose tackle, nothing behind Benton right now unless Black's going to play there. Then defense end becomes a need. Safety depth, there's nothing at safety. They had 4 pending, about to be free agents, and Peppers, Duggar, Clark, and Killebrew. There's nothing behind Ramsey and Elliott. And then punter. Everyone's forgetting about punter. There's no punter under contract right now. Waitman, restricted free agent, does not appear to be tendered. Could they re-sign him? They could. I'd go elsewhere. The punter market was pretty robust yesterday. A bunch of punters getting signed. I would look at Tommy Townsend, but I got guard, nose tackle, backup, safety depth, better in depth there, and punter as kind of 4 places to look next.
Okay. All right. I would be fine with everything that you just mentioned there. Will they add a guy moving forward with a more than a 5.5 million APY?
I'll say yes. Not super confident, but I'll say yes.
I'll say no. Where's what dollar figure would have you really on the fence? 7 million APY added?
I'm
7.5?
not super bogged down into exact numbers. I mean, I'm not surprised by yesterday's big moves. It was basically what I expected. Good money contracts at receiver, at corner, get a running back in there after losing Gainwell. Yeah, I mean, I think anything into that 7 to 8 million range would be maybe a little surprising. It probably means an offensive lineman, or unless they take a swing at inside linebacker, which really should kind of get us into the talk about Patrick Queen that you mentioned. A lot of smoke on Patrick Queen. Dallas has been in the market for an off-ball linebacker. They have struck out on all of the big options out there, whether that was Nakobe Dean or Quay Walker or Tremaine Edmonds or Devin Bush. Kudos to Devin Bush getting the bag. What out in Chicago? Good for him. Good money contract there. Devin Lloyd signed with Carolina late last night. And so Dallas really has been seemingly in trade discussions with Pittsburgh about Patrick Queen. Now, where those things stand, hard to say. Reporting from Dallas' side, nothing's imminent on a trade front. But the more this market gets kind of swallowed up and Dallas loses out, the more incentive they have to go make a run at Patrick Queen. Also reporting last night, the Eagles have called Pittsburgh about Patrick Queen after losing Nakobe Dean to the Raiders. And so the NFC East seems to be making a run at Patrick Queen.
Why should the Steelers consider trading Patrick Queen?
Offload a big money, good money contract, and Queen has not played up to par probably overall. His game's been very inconsistent. Some highs, been some really good moments, but a lot of negative moments too. And I think if you move Queen, my big picture thought, and I mentioned this concern a time or two on the podcast in the offseason, you got 2 pretty similar starting off-ball linebackers in Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson. They're more rangy, athletic, run and chase kind of guys. They're not super downhill, physical. They're kind of the same guy in a lot of respects. I think Queen is a little more physical, a little more downhill than Peyton Wilson. Wilson's a little more athletic, a little more range, makes a bunch of tackles. But you kind of have the same guy there, and there's probably a demerit and negativity to that, especially when you have less traditional nose tackle like Keanu Benton, not always eating blocks the way that a true run stuffer would to keep those guys clean. And so could you get a chance to break up Wilson and Queen, get a different type of starting inside linebacker, and they're going to and get a draft pick to boot?
All right, what would the game plan be for this team if they dealt Patrick Queen and kept Malik Harrison, obviously re-signed Holcomb, have Peyton Wilson in there, and Bruner, obviously a draft pick. Are you looking to fill that loss in free agency in any way, shape, or form? Because there's not much obviously left out there, else Dallas would be going after it
Right.
right now. Or do you? We already mentioned coming out of the combine that, man, this is a good off the ball linebacker class. So do you turn your attention to, all right, we traded Patrick Queen. We're okay with what we got here. But can definitely add one of these off the ball linebackers in the draft in the first 2 days per se.
Yeah, that's the issue. If you trade Patrick Queen, then you're in the same spot Dallas is in right now, trying to find an inside linebacker and coming up short on options. There are still a couple names out there. Bobby Okereke. You have Leo Chenal, kind of the big names still out there. Caden Ellis might make some sense for a team like Pittsburgh, but you would have slimmer free agent options. I think the draft class is strong. That's probably where you would look. I mean, you could do both. You're going to carry 5 inside linebackers. You got, let's say, Queen is gone. You got Peyton Wilson, Malik Harrison, Carson Bruner, Cole Holcomb. I guess you're at 4. You could do both, and then where's your cut going to come from? Could be still Cole Holcomb. That contract does not guarantee him a roster spot. So Malik Harrison for that matter too, I think. So yeah, I think the draft class is strong. It's probably where you look for the stronger swing. But who's going to be your green dot guy? Is it going to be Peyton Wilson, who's not established himself as a all situations type of guy? He's been a nickel player in both years. Or are you going to entrust a rookie to be an every down guy, which has its own drawbacks? So it gets tricky if you do deal Patrick Queen. I think Pittsburgh has to be careful here.
All right, what would you let him go for? I guess would be the next question. Would you take a 5th and be done with it, or would you stand firm and let's say maybe a 4th?
You're asking all the good questions here, Dave. Yeah, a 5th just feels light for Queen. I mean, it just really doesn't move that needle for me. A 4th rounder and maybe something else, even if it's small,
Like a
another
pick
late
swap
day
or
3
so?
pick swap. Yeah, it's kind of what's in my head right now. I don't want to give this guy away. I mean, listen, Queen has not probably lived up to expectations whenever he first signed. I like Patrick Queen. I wasn't looking to cut him or get him out the door. So I'm not trying to give this guy away either, though. So it probably would have to be a 4th in something else.
All right, you would at least dump that cash charge on him and save a little bit of cap money along the way. But once again, it's got to be ultra beneficial for you to part with a guy like this, right?
And is a 4th in something else ultra beneficial? I really wouldn't call it that. It's probably fair market value, but does it really sit there and say, okay, let's go ahead and trade this guy and figure out how to replace that?
Well,
Those
yeah,
snaps.
that's the thing is you've got to replace those snaps with somebody, and obviously hope for better quality too.
Yeah. So would you do that if it was a 4th and just call it another day 3 pick swap? Would you take that? Does that get you excited enough to move it?
I think I would seriously consider a 4th plus something. Yes. Is there anybody on there? And I did this last night. I tried to look at their 2027 Dallas's free agents that maybe, what I'm getting at here is, could there be a player for player?
Mm-hmm.
And in other words, a guy maybe on Dallas's roster that's that would be entering the final year of his contract. And the only one that I really came up with of the guys that are entering the final year of his contract was Luke Schoonmaker.
At the tight end?
Right.
What's his kind of backstory? What's his age and why
Yeah.
him? I mean, I get why him, another tight end, third tight end.
Right, right. He was a 2023 second round draft pick, so he got a little bit of pedigree there. Obviously, has kind of not performed up to that. He's entering the final year of his rookie contract, so you know, would you need something else in addition to him? Maybe a swap of a 6th or a 7th. I don't know, but at least you're getting a player back and one you could utilize as a third tight end. Pedigree guy out of Michigan, former second round guy once again. Was McCarthy wasn't there in 2023, was he, or was he?
No, he was. He was there
Okay.
2020 to 2024 in Dallas.
All right, so McCarthy knows him. He drafted
Mhm.
him, so that would make sense there. But that was the only really player I think youngish that could potentially fill a need that I can imagine being part of a player for player trade.
I might have a couple more names. I'm doing this all on the fly right now. How do I spell this guy's name? So Schoonmaker, what's he owed this year?
Like 1.6 or something, I think.
Okay, so super cheap. Is that a rookie deal? Is that last year's
Yeah,
last year's
yeah.
rookie
Last year
contract?
was rookie deal.
Okay. Let me throw out I'm just doing this totally on the fly. I'm not committing to this, but I'm not even sure on contracts. So I could be out to lunch on who's even a free agent or not. You tell me. Marquise Bell, the safety, played some linebacker too. Good special teamer. What's his situation? What's his contract looking like
He's
right
got
now?
2 years left on his deal.
Mm,
He's got 2 years left on his deal.
yeah, that might be
He's
tougher.
got a guaranteed salary in 2026 of 1.5 million. So that might be tough to rustle him away, being as how he's got 2 years left.
Yeah, I'm just thinking some safety depth there. Probably, yeah. I was looking at him, and then I'm just another name on the fly here. Solomon Thomas, defensive lineman. He's
He's a little
expiring contract
undersized, isn't he?
2026.
Is he an ideal fit?
Yeah, I mean that's probably a fair point. Exactly where does he fit? I don't know what his actual size is. He's listed. How many came out? This was a while ago out of Stanford.
He was like
What was his
270,
height
wasn't
and
he?
weight? Yeah, I mean I know you never know on those combine
Yeah.
weights because everyone drops weight. I'm trying to pull up his size, and I'm getting a long
He
loading
was like
screen here.
6'3" or something.
What was he?
I don't
6'3",
even know.
273, but I mean, he's probably bigger than 273, I'm sure, playing in the NFL this long. So he's got 33-inch arms. He's got some length to him. So yeah, I'm just kind of spitballing some names. I hear what you're saying. Trying to be creative in a deal. I get it.
Right, right. So that's the only thing that I could see other than. And look, if Dallas went after Patrick Queen, you'd probably have to give them permission to talk to Patrick Queen and his agent because they'd probably want to sign him to an extension, wouldn't they? Or would they want to go just 1 year
I,
rental on him at that high of a cap
mm,
price, being as how they're trying to they're you want to talk about a team trying to put 12 pounds in a 5-pound bag this offseason. It's
sure.
them.
Yeah, I don't know if they would want to extend or not. It'd be up to I don't know what their cap situation is and what they're looking to do. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. There is certainly a lot of smoke, though, and it feels like when there's this much smoke, will something get done? I'm curious. I'm not against the idea of trading Patrick Queen. I just always that question of kind of what's next,
Right.
and if they trade Quinn, then Peyton Wilson really has to develop, and he's got to be this guy that really comes and becomes the player Pittsburgh drafted him to be. To me, he has not made those steps. Jay's a hard worker. This talent's still there. The potential is still there, but it's got to be realized this season.
All right. Were you surprised about that smoke coming out around him yesterday?
Yeah, a little bit. I just you never know how free agency is going to go. I mean, I get new coaching staff. Maybe they have some different feelings about how these guys fit into place. So we'll just have to see. But I was a little surprised by it. Sure.
Yeah, I was too. And it feels like there's something, when Jane Slater's got a great ear
Hmm.
to what happens over there, and she was the first one I think to kind of pick up on that. And I think they had another Dallas Fort Worth beat writer that was talking about it last night as well too. So I think something's going on there.
Yeah. There's definitely got to be some conversation, some touch points there. There's been at least three different Dallas guys have talked about it. I think one talked about it kind of earlier in the afternoon, kind of doing a little of those kind of subtweet sort of I'm saying but I'm not saying kind of things, which I always hate. But that was the implication. And then Slater and I think it was Nick Harris from the Star Telegram
Okay,
also
that's it.
mentioning that, and also mentioning the Eagles' potential interest in. So if you can get two teams interested, two NFC East teams interested too, maybe you can get that price up a little bit.
Okay, we'll see if anything transpires there. And once again, if the Steelers did anything with Patrick Queen, it would be before March 15th.
Yeah, that's when that roster bonus is due. You got to trade him, but that makes sense on the timeline anyway, because free agency is going to be pretty kind of through that first wave by the 15th anyway. Dave, some other news, some draft news. Pittsburgh getting their comp picks finalized yesterday. Pittsburgh officially being awarded 4 compensatory selections for next month's draft: 99th overall, 135 overall, 214 and 216. So that's a third, a fourth, and 2 6-round picks for the losses of Dan Moore Jr., Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, and Dante Jackson. First time Pittsburgh has received any comp pick since 2017, and this ties to most comp picks they've ever received. They got 4 back in 1998. The 4, I think, is the maximum, and that tied the most of any team for 2026.
All right, and they're on the board for, let's see, what the Dowdle probably impacts that as far as the gain goes, but they have 3 lost free agents that have compensatory value at this point, and the Seumalo is limited, cut off at max by at most the Steelers can get as far as value would be a 5th round because he's got 10 years in the league.
Yeah, but I think the contract anyway was going to be borderline 5th, 6th rounder, Corte said. So I think regardless, it was going to be a 5th round pick, no matter his age or situation. So I assume Dowdle and Gainwell is going to cancel out because they're virtually the same deal. So I assume that was a 6th rounder for Gainwell. So that goes away. So it's probably a 5th. I think Corte officially put it as a 5th tentatively for Seumalo, and then a 7th for Pierre, I believe was the other one too. So as of right now, I think it's a 5 and a 7, but these things are still floaty. Pittsburgh obviously could make more signings that could cancel things out, and these things still shift based on when other free agents get signed, because you only have, I think, a max of 32 comp picks. They're at like 30 right now, so some could just simply fall off as other players get signed and other teams get higher comp picks in the order. So that Pierre one might fall off is kind of the point I'm trying to make here.
All right, as far as notable of the Steelers' own unrestricted free agents still on the board, obviously the old Aaron Rodgers thing is out there. Let's see, Kyle Duggar, Calvin Austin III, Chuck Clark. Who else is notable? I guess that's it as far as kind of Calvin. Did I mention Calvin Austin? Yeah,
you
Calvin
did.
Austin.
I need to interrupt you, Dave. Just one thing from Jane Slater. She's saying, this is from 2 minutes ago. Quote, seems like the Patrick Queen idea may have hit a snag, was told no updates as of this hour, and on him specifically, quote, probably not going there. So according to Jane Slater, it seems like Dallas and Queen not going to happen. Does not specify why. We don't know if the Eagles are still involved, but it seems like that smoke is going to remain smoke.
All right. Well, that puts a cap. At least we got that in before this.
Is that a good thing or bad thing? What is
I think it's a good thing. At least we addressed the smoke, and then we addressed where things stand, at least in the present time, by the time we're wrapping up this podcast. So I take that as a positive of getting that news before, after having a 15-minute conversation about Patrick Queen.
Yeah, so you never know if doors can reopen. You never know what's going to happen there. Like I said, with Queen, I understand the case to trade him away. I just didn't know where that would leave Pittsburgh, and even a 4th and something else. Again, that's fair market, and maybe that's even too strong market value. It's like you're not going to get a 3rd for this guy. That's just kind of Pollyanna to think about all that kind of stuff. But does it feel worth it to Pittsburgh to do that? I just didn't have this super strong feeling to give him to trade him away for even a 4th, and most likely probably just a 5th round pick.
All right, props to you for getting the word Pollyanna mixed into the podcast today. I don't even know what that means.
Word of the day calendar. It's somebody, what is Pollyanna? Kind of naive, this very rosy, rose-colored glasses view of the world. Pollyanna, I don't know. It's my word of the day calendar. So.
All right, so Pollyanna's not a player that the Steelers are going to be interested in free agency, right?
That's a classic Dave Bryan statement there. Well, how do we define Pollyanna? What is the definition? Now you got me all self-conscious.
How many snaps did Pollyanna play last year?
An excessively cheerful or optimistic person. So that's what Pollyanna. So at least you learned something.
All right, I did. I'm always thankful for that. Okay, the losses by the Ravens. They gained Max Crosby, but they sure are leaking oil out.
It's like that Thanos meme.
Huh?
It's like that Thanos meme. What did it cost you? Everything.
Yeah. They sure are leaking oil out the back end, aren't they?
Yeah, they were hit really hard. They've lost a ton of free agents. I'm not even sure where to start on their list, but the big loss, one of the biggest losses, was Tyler Linderbaum, who got the bag with the Raiders. Like, we knew this guy was going to get paid, was going to reset the market, but $27 million per, and it's effectively a fully guaranteed contract. $81 million is, I think, next year it kicks in, makes 2028 guaranteed. So this dude just reset the center market, and that is good for all future centers, including maybe one Zach Frazier for his payday next year.
I would have, if I'm Zach Frazier and I drink, I cracked an icy light yesterday. After he got Linderbaum got that bag there. So obviously you're out from having to worry about that. But boy, he didn't just reset the market at center; he blew it out of the water.
He's getting paid like a guard or a tackle almost. I mean, that's guard tackle money. So I had this thought just off the Linderbaum contract, and I know teams are always thinking, 1-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan, but I've not thought ahead to 27 too much until yesterday. This team's going to have to open up its checkbook for offensive line next year. You have Fautanu and Frazier, McCormick, they'll all be eligible for new contracts. You have Dylan Cook, a restricted free agent. You have Broderick Jones, a pending free agent, assuming the 5th-year option is declined, which I think is a safe bet at this point. Spencer Anderson also will be a free agent. So I'm not saying all those guys will get re-signed, all those guys will get deals or extensions, but this cheap offensive line will no longer be a cheap offensive line. You're going to have to invest in that and probably spend some money on the offensive line next year.
And that's yet another reason why this team better address the position once, if not twice, in this year's draft, right?
Yeah, now those are good problems to have, and it's good that you have to pay it because you invested and finally have some offensive linemen to pay, which has not happened for a while. And so I'm happy about that, but I'm just recognizing, you don't have to do Fautanu, for example, 5th-year option, you got more time on him, but the longer you wait, the better he plays, the more that tackle price goes up. I'm good with paying tackles early, the good ones, to get them as quote-unquote cheap as possible, and they still never are cheap. Frazier, you probably want to do the extension on him. McCormick, you may wait on, and Jones may end up walking, and Cook, you could tender him. The tender price will be expensive, $6 million, I think, projected next year for a second-round tender. So I'm just saying, the O-line payment conversation will be probably a big story this time next year.
All right, you're saying the payments come and due, right? The bills come and due.
Amen, for sure. But again, good problems to have means you're developing some good players, and that's always a positive for the offensive line.
All right. Darnell Washington has a new target price, probably.
Yeah, you talk about comparables. He's going to shoot for the Charlie Kolar contract out there with the Chargers, which was 3 years, about $24 million, I think. I think there was some dollars and cents in there I'm missing in that statement, but that's the contract for a blocking tight end. I'm sure Washington will like to beat that, so probably looking at just over $8 million per year on a potential Washington extension.
All right. I went into this morning thinking we are going to have about a 30-minute podcast. I should have known better. This ended up being an hour and 15-minute podcast. Anything else breaking or anything to talk about before we get out of here? Because we got to be back on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, we'll save emails for Wednesday just to get this information out as quickly as possible, and then we'll go from there. And Paul Skeens, what a great pitching performance in the World Baseball Classic last night.
Absolutely. Boy, that Bobby Witt Jr., man, boy, a couple of plays at shortstop that kid made there. Penguins play tonight. I'll be trying to tune into that a little bit as well too, I think. So, all right, we'll be back on Wednesday recapping whatever happened on Tuesday. So we've got breakdowns of Dean Pittman. I imagine we'll have one up on Dowdle today, right?
Yeah, Ross is working on it. It should be up probably later today, if not sooner.
All right, and obviously anything else that happens along the way, we'll be looking for the details on the Michael Pittman Jr. contract. We'll be looking for the exact breakdown of the Rico Dowdle contract and keeping those up to date as well, too. And we're going to run another tracker today across the league.
We'd probably just bump up the tracker that we have been using. Yeah, I think people have liked that, so I think we're still updating that current tracker for all the big money deals around the NFL.
All right. As usual, you can follow me on Twitter /X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button on the navigational bar. Also, look, we just did an update on the theme on the website as well, too, to clean up some old files and all. If something looks out of place on mobile or desktop, like in the last few days, let us know what you're seeing, either in the comments on a post, or if you want to hit the contact button on the site and let me know that way. It'd be very helpful because obviously we all have different phones and all like that. But if you see something out of place or something not loading, I think people are having problems with some of the draft profiles. We think we got that fixed and all like that. But be our eyes and ears for us and let us know if you see anything out of line as far as aesthetically or something as the site loads, particularly on phones. If you view the site that way, that would be very helpful. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button and follow the directions that way. Alex and I will be back on Wednesday morning recapping the latest with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.